Welcome to the Atomic Real Estate Show, Philadelphia's #1 real estate podcast and a Direct Subs production. Real estate investing is not rocket science, and on our show, we'll delve into best practices with a focus on the small things that add up over time. Please enjoy the authentic, informative, and actionable show with our host, Paul Jagelski.
Hello and welcome to the Atomic Real Estate Show, a podcast dedicated to exploring the world of real estate investing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just getting started in the industry, this show is for you. Join us as we dive into the latest trends and insights in the Philadelphia real estate market and hear from expert guests who share their knowledge and expertise with their stories of investing in this dynamic city. This show is brought to you by Direct Subs. Please check them out at directsubs.com, focusing on building connections for investors and contractors throughout the greater Philadelphia area. The Atomic Real Estate Show is your go-to resource for all things real estate in Philadelphia. I'm Paul Jagelski, your host. Now sit back and relax, and let's explore the atomic world of real estate together with our guest, Travis Seal. Travis, thanks for coming, man. Please take some time, introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you, Paul. Appreciate you having me on here, and always good to meet some new folks and talk some Philly real estate. That's my favorite thing. So I am with Select Redevelopment, which is a vertically integrated development, construction, and investment management company that I started about 4 years ago in its current iteration. And we focus on mid-market multifamily new construction projects in the city. Generally stuff that's in the 15 to 50 unit space, sometimes with a mixed use component, but our mandate is really to focus on mid-market, neither high-end nor low-end, new construction, production build, but in areas that we see as having potential for economic appreciation, potential for rent growth, and are part of kind of the regrowth and regeneration story of Philadelphia.
That's awesome, dude. So I got lost in your website. It was fun to kind of read about you guys and what you do. And the big takeaway I really got from this is you actually care about your neighborhoods. You're actually putting in things that look with it, designed with it, but are new age. And you really do stay on that, I hate the term cutting edge, but you really are on that perfect little balance of technology coming into it, the look of it, the space that it's taking, and the overall feel. So how did you decide that was what you wanted to get into? How not the single families, how like that size of what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, it's a, we do try to be design focused, and I think one of the almost secrets of development that is not discussed enough, in my opinion, is that it's pretty much just as easy to build an unattractive plain building as it is to build a building with a little bit of nuance and character to it. And so I have no eye for design or no aesthetic, but you hire the right architects, you hire the right builders, the right designers, and we were talking offline a second before we started about some spec houses we did recently, and that didn't cost us any more to build than it would have otherwise. It's just a bit of a different design intent and thinking it through. So
that's so cool.
We try and be mindful of the surroundings. We try and be contextual. We're not going overboard either. We're not breaking the bank with historic replicas or anything like that, unfortunately. But we are definitely trying to make a positive contribution to neighborhoods and communities that have been there for far longer than the most recent development on the block.
That's awesome. So when you're building these, what has been the biggest challenge within Philadelphia right now?
It's a long list. I know you don't have 6 hours blocked off today, so it's
that's a loaded question. I'm sorry.
No, it's been an interesting 3 years, as I'm sure everyone knows, and I would say that we've mostly rode out the struggles with contractors and with supply chain stuff. Okay. A lot of that stuff is normalizing from both the pricing and availability perspective. That was probably our biggest challenge 9, 12, 15 months ago, 2 years ago. I would say that with those times normalizing, there are some macroeconomic headwinds around the kind of the banking and interest rate climate that I'm sure everybody's also familiar with, but that's not Philadelphia specific, that's just everywhere. So, but I would say to answer the question, really, it's finding deals is difficult. Land values are a little bit out of sync with the prices that developers are able to pay. at the moment. We're seeing that ease a little bit, but it's been a bit of a frozen market for the past 6 months or so. So that's definitely a challenge. Philadelphia has an ever-changing regulatory landscape, and anybody who knows Philly will know that that's an understatement. So we actually do dedicate a lot of internal time and resources to understanding the changes at L&I, the changes in the zoning code, what's going on with the various requirements to be able to operate in the city. And to be frank, we view that as a competitive advantage. I mean, we're very focused on the Philadelphia market, and we believe that being very deep in this niche and understanding how to actually operate, execute, and get stuff done in Philly is an advantage over a shop that might have a project in Delaware, a project in Montgomery County, a couple things in Jersey, and then they jump into the Kensington or West Philly market, and it's a very different ballgame operationally. So we're trying to differentiate ourselves that way. So.
That's awesome. So you deal with Eclipse a lot, you deal with downtown a lot, pulling permits and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yep.
The biggest, you mentioned finding property right now is your biggest headache. So I guess negotiation and fund financing would be the two ways that you're really looking to focus this year, I guess. Got to find the land, got to negotiate it. Tell me a little bit about your financing on it when you do find a project, what you're looking to finance it. Or is it in-house money? Are you looking for investors to come in?
Yeah, and so once we get deals tied up, we generally will, depending on the exact situation and the economics of it, oftentimes close on the land with equity. In our typical deals, the land is generally anywhere from maybe 10 to 20% of the overall capital stack. Dang. So we generally have the equity to close that, work on the entitlements, get a shovel ready, and then we are generally working with a lot of the local and regional banks here for the construction financing, construction to permanent. They're definitely a little bit more conservative than they were a year or two ago, as I'm sure everyone knows. But it's, we're usually about 60-70% leverage, probably more like 60-65% these days on projects. And it's a lower leverage environment, so we're trying to upsize our equity and just make sure that deals work and that we're conservative in terms of how we're putting together our capital stack, and that we're having we're adequately capitalized for interest rate fluctuations, for supply chain and pricing fluctuations that, again, I think are tamping down a little bit. But going through the environment and climate of the last few years, you realize how important conservatism in modeling is, and you want to look at the whole picture. So we're trying to focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, you started right before COVID and then grew during COVID. So how you're projected really well.
Well, it's a moving target, but yes, we're getting there.
How big is your team overall?
We're about 10 people right now.
Oh, that's awesome. So you are growing.
And about half of that is our construction management team, executing on building the projects, and then the other half is variously finance, operations, and then we have a separate commercial brokerage arm that focuses on commercial investment, multifamily land opportunities, that kind of stuff.
Dude, that's so cool that you set all this up.
Yeah, it's a good time.
That's awesome. Born and raised here in Philly?
Baltimore, actually.
Baltimore? So, what parts?
North Baltimore, kind of by Hopkins Loyola University up there.
My grandparents grew up right around that area.
Oh, excellent.
Farmington Hills, something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, Baltimore's a beautiful place. Hopefully, direct subs in this podcast will be down there soon.
Oh, excellent. Okay, good. Well, let me know. I know people down there. It's but I've been in Philly for upwards of 15, 18 years now.
Oh, thanks. So what brought you here?
Just Philadelphia. It's a good city.
That's awesome. Drawn to the city out of it?
Yeah. And, I came here and ended up loving it and staying. I mean, it just has a lot going on. It has a lot of opportunity. It's very dynamic. It has great neighborhoods, great housing stock, great anything you want to do, and I'm a lifer.
So what did you do before this? Since this was 4 years ago.
Before this, I was essentially a one-man band. I was doing a lot of single-family flips, did a lot of work in South Philly, did various consulting work, did some public-private partnership stuff, And going back even a little bit further, I was in property management, I was in brokerage, I was in apartment leasing in the city.
Oh, that's awesome. So you've been around real estate pretty much your whole adult life out of it.
Yeah, pretty much my whole career.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yes,
and then you just niche yourself right in, found what you liked out of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it took 10 years, but yes. It was a good 10 years of bouncing around and doing, okay, you know, do I like and understand the property management world? How's the brokerage world? What about construction? You know, get my head around finance. And through all of that and through kind of living and working in Philly in real estate, I saw development trends, I saw neighborhood trends, I saw kind of how the economic climate in Philly worked. And then what I wanted to do was overlay on top of that an investment strategy that incorporated a vertically integrated platform to execute on all phases of development, instead of relying on, you know, a third-party GC here, an outsourced broker there, and so on. We wanted to really control the entire process based on what I saw over 10 years of working in these disparate parts of the industry.
Damn, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I mean, putting together the vision, looking at how to actually execute the steps and then doing it is, I mean, that's so cool out of it. Now, when you're going around and you're looking at these properties, what are you using to identify the land that would fit for you? I'm assuming zoning has got to be the first big one that you're looking at. If you come up with a zoning variance, what are you looking at and how are you looking to change it?
So zoning is huge. Zoning is key. And, you know, we are kind of going back to the regulatory environment in Philly. There are a lot of changes to zoning classifications in a lot of these emerging submarkets. There are a lot of overlays. There are a lot of kind of different moving parts there. And so yeah, we're paying very, very close attention to that. And we're not pursuing zoning variances anymore.
Okay.
And I've never really have. We've done a handful of them over the years, but as a matter of policy, it's a lot of time, it's money, effort, and energy, and it's risk in a way that wasn't present a few years ago. A few years ago, you have within reason, a sensible request for a variance, and I think the stats on the ZBA, they were approving 92%, 93% of cases before them. That's kind of gone out the window now, and there's a very different kind of reception to variance requests, and we just don't really have a tolerance for that risk. We want to focus on understanding what we can do, getting the entitlements memorialized with our zoning permits, and then moving forward on executing the development and construction.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, good for you. I was hoping you were going to say, like, oh yeah, we love the variance part of it, because I was going to just drill you with that one then. But no, I'm the same way, man. I look around, I've got clients that, you know, they look at for a variance, like, oh, we can get this, we can change it over there. And as soon as they sit there, I'm like, no, you don't, like, that's not fun right now. Like, that's not, it's not the Wild West anymore, where, as you say, 92, 93% we're getting through.
Yeah.
Now you're lucky to get 10% and the longevity.
It's time, too. It's a year plus.
Yeah. And I mean, now you can move on. You can find another project, you can move on to something else that actually the community's looking for and going for it.
Yep.
So that's awesome. I like that. I like that a lot. And you say you work with these local communities and these government agencies throughout it. You know the different little nuances. So when you're working with them, are you trying to, again, fit those buildings into what the requests are, as well as what you can write to build that?
Yeah, we're generally, the zoning code exists for a reason, the building code exists for a reason. It's because the powers that be, the planning commission and so on, that drafted that, they have master plans for these different neighborhoods, that they have goals around density and bulk and height and light and air and all this stuff. And so we're perfectly happy to build within the zoning code and within the building code, and to make a good product within that. That said, you want to oftentimes, but not always, maximize density. We were underwriting a project that we're in negotiations on, where it's CMX 2.5 zoning, and in theory, by right, you could do 55 units. That's almost too dense for the site. If you look at, okay, what you can build 80% lot coverage in 5 stories, and all of a sudden you would just be left with a bunch of 400 square foot units. And so that doesn't really make sense. So we dialed that back. We underwrote it as a 46 unit project, I believe.
Okay.
And so we're not even using all the density possible, but it makes for a better scaled project with a better unit mix, more viable and livable units. and so on. So it's kind of it's as much art as science to kind of see, hey, what do we want to do here?
Yeah, that's awesome. So most of these projects that you're doing, are these for clients or for your company to hold?
We're generally holding on to stuff for
awesome.
5 years to 10 years.
Oh, okay, cool. So you have a plan out of it too.
Yeah, we're not necessarily looking to build and sell. Sometimes that is the objective, given a particular project or the investment objectives of a particular investor we might be working with. But broadly speaking, we're looking at a 5 to 10 year hold.
Nice.
So,
How long? Well, I guess the first question: average size of your constructions?
a lot of the stuff that we are doing right this second is between 15 and 40 units.
Okay.
The stuff that we have in our pipeline on the drawing board is in the 30 to 50 unit space.
Nice.
So we've grown a bit over the past couple of years. Our wheelhouse used to be kind of the 4 to 12 unit space, and we've kind of looked to scale that a little bit more. So
Nice. I like that. What areas are you guys looking at right now?
we are looking a lot in the northwest section, Chestnut Hill, where we are. Not doing anything in Chestnut Hill proper. It's a little expensive out here. It's very nice. But really like Mount Airy, Germantown, Roxborough, Manayunk, a lot of these areas that are proximate to KOP, to Ambler, to some of these western suburbs that are growing employment centers and hubs of activity, but still accessible to Center City as well. We're doing a handful of projects in North Square, Kensington area. We like that submarket a lot. Not so much in West Philly anymore, not so much in South Philly anymore. Those markets have gotten expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I know this isn't really in your current wheelhouse, but I'm sure you in the past but like the BRRs are just the price. It's not there right now for them. And if you are finding them, they're looking to make a bigger unit out of it, which isn't in my wheelhouse out of it. So I like the fact that you're actually looking at, dude, I like Kensington. I like Market Square. I love over here. Obviously, I live over here. So anything you could do over here would be great for us.
Yeah, that's better town.
I mean, I think this area could use a little bit more of these commercial parts out of it, a little bit more mom and pop shops in this area. I know Germantown has it, but a little bit set back towards the suburbs could use some stuff that would be great for it. So your average time frame on one of these builds?
From when we actually have a shovel in the ground to completion is generally 9 to 16 months, depending on the project size. We are, again, we're lucky enough to have an excellent construction team out there. We most recently, we're about to finish a project on in North Square. That was a 14-unit project, and we had a hang up with some of our final electrical equipment that cost us about 2 or 3 months. But that project with shovels in the ground, I believe it was last March, and we were substantially complete in January.
Holy cow!
And but just couldn't get CO'd on it, so that's kind of this tailing COVID lingering effect. But but that's a big focus of the construction side. I mean, we really want to. We say it all the time internally. We want to put the manage in construction management, and we really work on running tight schedules. Really being there for our subs. We view it as a symbiotic two-way relationship, and it's amazing. I mean, those guys they'll run through walls for us, and that's because we jump through hoops for them, and everybody's happy. So.
As much as I really want other people to be able to get access to your subs, I don't think I should ask who your subs are right now. But because I know that's always a pressing question is who's somebody using. But we'll let you save those. You don't have to give those out. But man, dude, you do got a good team if you can turn those around right now. Where are you resourcing your products from?
In terms of actual supplies, materials, that kind of stuff. We use a couple of just general supply houses for the lumber stuff. We have a relationship with a cabinet manufacturer out in the western suburbs that does, takes orders, they build everything to spec and everything like that. We've worked with them for about 3 years now, I think. Countertops are, the local folks who fab in-house here and do everything custom. we use Ferguson for a ton of stuff. They're very,
Yeah.
they have everything under the sun. They have everything but the wood, and so that's been good. But yeah, just all over the place. And again, our philosophy on that is a lot of that stuff is very commoditized. If you want a Frigidaire appliance package, you can get within $50 going to a few different vendors. Yep. If you want, a engineered lumber package, these shops or the lumber yards are going to bid it out pretty evenly. But what it's really all about is service and relationship with the vendor. Yep. Is what we focus on. Because again, they're there to help you. We're there to help them. So.
Dude, it's awesome. It seems like you really understand this whole network thing. A lot of people don't understand that real estate is really just a big network. Mm-hmm. And the better you are at networking yourself and your business and your industry, mm-hmm. the easier this is. Mm-hmm. As you said, you were flying solo before, and you can burn out flying solo real quick, real fast out of it. But once you start realizing, hey, I can hire a cabinet company, I can hire granite, I can hire painting, I can hire all these little things, and now I'm actually moving it all forward, and I can actually start a company out of it, mm-hmm. and I don't have to be doing all this stuff every day in, day in, day out.
Yeah, you can scale well. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So where do you see this future fund market that we're currently in right now?
That's kind of the question on everybody's tongue these days, right?
I'm sorry.
We are sitting in a broker office, so I imagine it's an optimistic crowd around here, I hope. But I have to say I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic. I do think that the Fed is pretty near finished with turning the screws on interest rates, and I do think that the various stakeholders are now able to have some clarity around the cost of capital, and if I refi a loan 12 months from now, can I reasonably expect to get a 5.5% to 6% rate? Probably. So injecting some certainty into the capital markets side of it is reason for optimism, I think. I also think that there is still a structural imbalance between supply and demand in housing, and especially in the mid-market space. A lot of what we do is essentially the lowest priced new construction available, and not that it's low market, but that it's it's always going to cost you X to build a new building, yep. Which means that you can only rent it for Y. And so you factor in the land cost there and so on, but we try and be kind of almost entry-level new construction, and there's a very, very broad tenant base for that. There's a specific reason behind our business model of pursuing that mid-market stuff and not being on the low end, not being on the super high end, just because the total addressable market of tenants is rather broad. Yep. So, and also, again, I think we were talking about this offline before we started up. It's a difficult climate to be a first-time or possibly second-time buyer, and a lot of our tenants are renters by choice, and they're saying, "Hey, I would love to go out and buy a house for $300, $350, but now I can only afford $200 because of interest rates. Oh, I'm going to rent for a couple more years." So we have this. Going back to your core question, we have this imbalance between supply and demand. The country and also the metro area are underhoused, and so my belief is that any contribution we can make to providing more housing is a good thing, and I do believe the demand will be there. There will be fluctuations in the capital markets. There will be fluctuations in the construction cost side of it, but at the end of the day, looking at Philly on a 5 to 10 year horizon, and looking at the growth prospects, looking at the tenant base, looking at the real estate landscape, I think it's going to do well, and I think it's a good place to be. So.
I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that mid-level is missing right now, and I really do think a lot of people are going to be going heavy towards the rental over the next couple of years because it's the more affordable way to do it right now. And that mid-range, if they can't buy a single family that's affordable to them, they're going to be looking to rent out of it. I like it. I own in this area. I rent them out in this area for the same kind of reason. And I just kind of see that, as you say, going up and up and up. Mm-hmm. So I like it. I like the way Philly's going. I think we're trending as an overall city. We have some issues that we can figure out, hopefully, to bring some population back into the actual city itself. But I like the overall direction that our city's going in. I like the fact that you're actually building homes for people that aren't just the typical, I don't want to call them typical rentals, but the typical rentals, like the cookie cutters. Here's your open kitchen, there's your flat kitchen against it, here's your quick little island. I mean, we were talking about it beforehand. You're building open kitchens that go up to the next level out of it. You have catwalks going across of it. Your designs are actual cool designs that people can live in and feel unique to it, you know, and not hey, yeah, I live in that cookie cutter over there.
Yeah.
And they're big spaces too. Like they're full out homes.
Yeah, and Philly is architecturally unique, and I think we were talking about it at the outset here. There's just no reason not to do interesting stuff. And one of the, again, I'm not the most creative person out there, but working with some of these architects and designers and some of our in-house people on the pre-construction side, and seeing them kind of really take a project and run with it and say, hey, you know, our facade, our masons charge us, we're $28 per square foot for a brick facade. Get within that budget and do whatever you want. So do a cool brick detail, do a different facade shape, make massive window openings, like, do lettering over the first floor cornice, whatever. Like, it's to kind of give these folks who are on the design side the latitude to run with that stuff.
That's cool.
It is great. And again, it doesn't cost any more. We're still within budget, and but everybody gets to kind of have fun with it and to make a mark, however small, on the block that we're on, and to do something that's more interesting than the next guy. So.
I really like how you sat there and said, you know, allowing them to put their own mark on it at the same time, because most don't. Most of them are, hey, I need you to draw these plans up for me, and it needs to be this, and this. And you see these poor, like they want to do stuff, they want to make it.
Yeah,
like, I can make a really cool. No.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Are you using any kind of like CGI technology or anything to render these all by hand, like old school blueprints?
That's beyond my knowledge. Our architects use some cool stuff, I think. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but they're in there coming up with stuff, and it's and a lot of these guys, like I really like architects because they have this. A lot of them are doing that for a reason. They don't necessarily. They may or may not love, counting door dimensions on 150 doors, but they do love, hey, can I draw a cool facade? They really like that part.
But that's the cool thing.
Yeah, and I found that, we have good relationships with a few different architects that we use regularly, and part of the fun part is, hey guys, we're looking at this site, we can build a 45-foot tall building, you have 60 feet of frontage, like what would you do for a facade concept? And they're all over it. They, say, hey, what about this, what about that? And you kind of iterate it from there. And yeah, that's one of the fun parts of the process.
That's awesome. I think I need one of them to come tell me what to do with my garage space. I need a garage and I don't know how to put it onto my property. I know it sounds easy. It's not, with all the zoning and all the other problems with it. Any advice that you'd be given to any kind of, I don't even want to say on the investor side of it, I want to just say in general, because you tend to overall understand the market, but any advice you got for anybody out there right now trying to enter the space, or anybody who's already into the space? So.
Yeah, I think that, one of my favorite parts of the business is that you always learn something new every single day. And, I've been doing various parts of this business for 15 years now, I guess. You talk to people who've been doing it for 50 years, and they say they're still learning new stuff every day. So, and that's great. That makes it kind of a lifelong thing that you can always get better and better at, but you never master. But I think the learning side of it is crucially important. I came into the business by definition, as we all do, not knowing anything at the start, and but the learning opportunities in the industry are tremendous. Like, when I first decided to take the construction side in-house, it's, well, how do you build a building? Well, read the architectural plans. You look at a set of architectural plans, back very deep on it, there is a 36 by 48 fine print in 12-point font, 4-point font, and you sit down for 3 hours and read that, you'll understand, the concrete PSI needs to be this, the bearing width of these joists needs to be this many inches, and all this stuff, and it's all there. You just need to sit down and read it. And same thing with a lot of the finance stuff, same thing with the other kind of more arcane sides of the business, like how you're structuring your insurance or how you're navigating your zoning codes, stuff like that. Like all this information is there, especially these days, in ways that it might not have been 10, 20, 25 years ago. It's, I think being a learner is a good thing. Just always ask folks, always read stuff. You know.
I agree. Are you a big reader? Is that your learning?
Definitely, yeah.
Books on tape or physical reading?
No, physical. I'm a liberal arts by background,
Okay.
English major, and but part of the reason why I pursued an English degree was because I didn't know what to do, and my thinking was, well, if I can understand how to read well, understand stuff, communicate thoroughly, I can teach myself whatever I wanted to do later. So,
Dude, mind blowing.
that's how it turns out. So a lot of reading and being
Oh my gosh, can you go tell every English major to think that way? Oh god, dude, that's so smart out of it. So dang, from English to all this, and I mean, it makes a lot of sense, as you said. You read it, you understand it, then you can apply it and put it through.
Yeah, and figure it out.
Any books you advise?
Try to think. I mean, I've always kind of trended more towards what might be considered the drier technical stuff around finance. Right now I'm reading Ben Bernanke's memoir of the '08 financial crisis, all 600 pages of it.
What was that?
He's a wordy fellow, brilliant guy. But it's in light of what's going on now, I do not understand the central banking system as well as anyone probably should. I do not understand monetary policy as well as a lot of people probably do. And I said, hey, what's going on right now, the last 12 months, the last 8 months, with how the Fed is responding to what's going on out there? Why and how are these decisions made? How do they trickle down through the economic system and affect the guy standing here on Main Street trying to build a building? And it's a great read, so it kind of informs some of that stuff.
I can only imagine your accountant must love you. You seem very organized. Tax time has to come, and you've got your ducks in a row.
He has his qualms about me, but that's all right.
We'll leave that to him and you. That we're not touching upon. Dude, that's so cool out of it. I mean, it's almost like you took the entrepreneurial mindset and took it like the step further, and just really embrace the fact that it's all there, and I can self-teach myself it, or I can go get taught it, or I can learn life lessons, or I can do all three out of it and just apply to it. And to see you succeed so quickly out of it is awesome. I mean, I know you spent your time in the trenches out of it solo, but you started a company right before COVID, and you have accelerated that company through it. That speaks wonders to you. So,
thank you.
Congratulations on that part out of it. I don't know how your life is outside of it. That's going to be kind of my next question out of it is, what do you do to decompress and unwind after a nice, long, stressful day, week, and month?
I mean, this is going to sound like a terrible answer, but I go out, walk around neighborhoods, drive around neighborhoods, and I have no hobbies besides just enjoying the city and keeping it simple. I like discovering new restaurants, new bookstores, new retail strips in the city, new stuff that's going on, and it's just endlessly fascinating to me. So I don't have any particular hobbies. I don't have a wood shop in my basement or anything like that. I
think walking around in the sunshine through this city is a beautiful hobby.
Can't go wrong.
Where are you living at?
I'm in Queen Village.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's great.
Oh, change of season right now, and everything blooming up.
Yep, springtime in the city.
Yeah, dude, I can see why you want to walk around right now.
Yeah, it's good.
Any projects that you're working on local to you?
No, we're not really doing anything in Queen Village or really all of South Philly for that matter. I mean, as we were saying, I love South Philly. It's where I got my start. It's an excellent market, excellent place to live, but it doesn't have a ton of relatively large or mid-sized sites that lend themselves to redevelopment that haven't already been done. And it's kind of very dense, and also in my mind, it's a little bit overpriced. People are paying a lot for anything developable down there. So.
If I was to start into the real estate development world today myself, what's the first thing I need to learn? Other than Philly zoning.
Yeah. Step one, Philly zoning code. And then, after that, I think I really think the finance side is important. and just understanding how a bank is going to look at a deal, understanding how a potential investor partner is going to look at a deal, understanding how how value is derived from these projects. I was talking to a colleague of mine the other day, and we kind of made the point that nothing happens in real estate without the tenant's dollar coming in the door. So that drives everything. That drives the valuation of the building, that drives your cash flows, that drives everything. So they're really the end user customer. The money in a real estate field doesn't come from anywhere else. Ultimately, obviously,
right.
In the short term, there are financial structures, but at the end of the day, that drives the value. So kind of understanding that and understanding how that flows through, how you might structure your debt, structure your equity, and execute on the deal is probably the first thing.
When you're structuring these, somebody mentioned something to me about a month ago that I still haven't been able to wrap my head around. Because again, I'm on small scale. I'm looking single family, 2 units, maybe up to 4. I'm traditional bank kind of mortgage, LLC, very simple kind of financing. But he was explaining to me large development of a way where you're getting almost the draw from the bank on financing. And I don't remember the term that he called using it, but can you talk a little bit about just the difference of your financing a project versus like a traditional where, hey, you go to closing table, you sign off, and checks are sold to the seller, buyer pays it over, and so forth. What is it doing on the commercial side of it when you're talking that big? Because I know it's different.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not all that different. It's conceptually it's similar. Execution-wise, it's a little bit different.
Okay.
And that's really just a function of there's a little bit more detail and nuance to how the cash flows are managed, how the draw process might work as you're drawing down a construction loan, how things might work within your loan agreement to the bank, how some of the inspections might take place, how some of the documentation around the construction draws might take place. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's just a little bit more nuanced and detailed.
Okay.
So I think that again, real estate lends itself very well to scale. I think, and a lot of the principles and processes and mechanisms that are at work in the 1 to 4 family world are also at work in the larger commercial world.
Okay. So you identified property A. How long before you actually are able to settle on that property? Would you say is that time frame of like the negotiations, putting together a contract and so forth?
It's generally speaking, I would say 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
The reasoning behind that being that we're over the past year or so, we are a lot more conservative around our zoning entitlements, and we're essentially not only are we not doing variances, we're really not doing deals where we don't have our zoning entitlements in hand before we close.
Ooh.
And that's
Are you writing that into the agreement of sale that way?
oh, definitely, yes.
Cool.
Yeah, we're trying to structure the contracts as being fully contingent on zoning and obviously environmental and other stuff. But
Right.
we the zoning risk is just too large. We have been burned a couple of times with we did a project that we're actually under construction on now in the Kensington area where the underlying zoning changed the same week we settled on the project, and it got downzoned.
Get the hell out of here.
And we're thorough in our diligence process. We have screenshots of Atlas showing the zoning a week before we closed. We have our architect's review of all this stuff. We have this particular project involved a lot consolidation, so we had our land use attorney looking at it as well. And we we applied for our zoning permit, and it came back with a refusal saying, "Oh, you can only do 50% of the units you applied for. Everything else looks good." And so that set us back a lot. And we did, to make a long story short, we did find our way through it. We utilized some of the bonuses available and so on to get back to where we were initially density-wise. But we lost 12 to 18 months. It didn't help the economics of the project. It's still a good project. But so the larger point being that we are, and we've had 1 or 2 other situations similar to that as well. So going back a year or 2 now. So we just aren't taking any risk because the sands are shifting in terms of zoning classifications and what you can do with the property. So.
You mentioned a key term that you kind of like to explain a little bit more. The bonuses when you're building.
Mm-hmm.
just expand upon what you would have to do on the building side of it and what the city's willing to give you for doing it.
Yeah, the city has a couple of, in my opinion, actually very well structured density bonuses in exchange for providing either mixed income housing and or green roof infrastructure. And so we've made use on a handful of projects now, the mixed income bonus, where you're getting an additional 25 to 50% density in exchange for providing 10% affordable units at a certain level of area income. And it's a well-designed trade-off. It costs the city nothing. It provides more affordable housing. It generally makes the deal more economically attractive from the private investment side. And it's, in my mind, a really good marriage of using code decisions to incentivize the private market to do something that benefits everybody, all stakeholders. So, so we've used that. Made use of the green roof bonus also, which provides a 25% density bonus and also a height bonus as well. So there are a lot of nuances to all these within the different zoning classifications and so on. But that's in broad strokes, that's what it is, and it makes sense. And we like, again, we're not an affordable housing developer, but to be able to put out a handful of affordable units with any given project is kind of a nice thing to do.
Yeah. Are you running all these properties in-house, or are you third-partying them out for property management?
We do not do property management. So that's kind of the one thing. We do everything from acquisitions all the way through CO, but then we do not manage.
Okay. So if tenants want to find you, property manager to contact, you use one or multiple?
We use a few. We use a few different ones.
So go to your website to go through you to find your properties?
No, all our properties are on the market, and assuming the management companies are doing their job, which I think they do a great job, are very easily found. Anybody who's looking for an apartment will find the stuff that we have available. So,
well, I'm hoping
we don't have any internal marketing like that on our site, if that's the question.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure everybody people are going to want unique little places to rent. I want to make sure that they can find yours specifically out of it. But that's awesome. So tenants are loving it. Your feedback's been great, obviously. You've been growing and continuing it. With the mixed use, the bottom level being those businesses, again, going to the property management, I'm assuming you're going out to them. But are you trying to go in there with like specific ideas beforehand with what could be put there?
Not necessarily, no. Broadly speaking, most of the stuff that we are doing that has that component is either CMX2 or CMX 2.5. So that allows for a very wide range of, call it, light commercial uses.
Oh, okay.
We'll go as far as, in some projects, we'll install a shaftway for a hood vent or something like that, just in case a tenant wants to do that. But we're not preconceiving of any specific use in terms of our fit out. We're just doing vanilla box, and that's it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then, so when somebody comes in, is it up to you guys to retrofit it, or is it up to the tenant to retrofit it?
That's always a negotiation.
Oh, okay.
And it's usually a mixture of that and maybe providing a month or two of rent credit to them, something like that. And oftentimes it's, they might want something that's a little bit more specialized. They want to build a bar for their coffee shop, or if they want to put in a salon chair or something like that, depending on the use, if they want to put in some built-in desks or whatever. But then it's, well, hey, can you guys do this kind of flooring, and can you paint the walls this color and install these light fixtures, and we'll do everything else. So sometimes it's a mix.
That's awesome. So you keep it very open. Whoever's coming in, negotiate it through, talk it out, and figure out what works for both parties out of it.
Yeah, and this is not, a stellar market for being a retail landlord, storefront landlord. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of competition, and we're very conservative in how we underwrite that stuff. And it's almost more about getting a tenant that's going to be there for a while, be financially viable, be a non-disruptive use, and be low impact on the building. All those things are, in a way, kind of a little bit more important than the dollars and cents of how much per square foot we're getting.
No. So. That was one of my key questions for you is, time-wise on the commercial spaces, are you looking for 3 to 5 years for them to kind of sign a contract versus the 12, 18 month?
Yeah, ideally the longer the better.
Okay.
Again, if if a tenant is the right fit for a 1 or 2 year lease, then we're not
Okay.
opposed to it. But yeah, we really like to have a 5-year lease in place if possible.
Nice. Any of your properties Airbnb or short-term leases?
No.
Darn it.
I don't really follow that world too much, but my understanding is there was a massive regulatory change in Philly where a lot of licensing requirements went into place and a lot of the zone stuff came into place, and that was clearly going to happen at some point sooner or later.
Yep.
And so yeah, we're not in that space.
Yeah, okay. I've only hit the tip of the iceberg into that space. I was like,
Okay.
knowledge-wise, if you were in
Okay.
there, I was gonna be like, ooh,
Yeah,
time to pick somebody's brain.
Yeah, I'm not your guy for that. I don't know anything
Yeah,
about
no,
it.
because I heard the same thing. A bunch of stuff changed,
Mhm.
and I don't understand necessarily all of it because I wasn't in it beforehand, so I'm not really sure what the nuances are.
Mhm.
But don't worry, listeners, we'll get you somebody on there for it. So that's awesome, dude. How many properties do you guys have right now that you're currently holding?
Right now, we generally have anywhere from 4 to 7 projects under construction at a given time. And in terms of holding, it's a couple dozen probably buildings, just variously in the city. So
Because you said you like to look to sell them 5-7 years down.
yeah, it's there's a bit of a rolling aspect to it,
Yep.
and we're selling a place this spring actually that I did exactly 10 years ago, and the idea was kind of a 10-year hold, and that's come to fruition. It did very well over its lifespan and so on. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
It's always nice to see that little plan come together out of it.
Yeah. So yeah, but it's always a mixed bag of stuff.
So looking ahead, we've talked about some of the challenges. What do you think are going to be some of the easy parts of Philadelphia coming ahead in the next few months?
That's a tough question.
Sunshine.
Yeah. It's I do think a silver lining that we're seeing is some of this frenzied demand for subcontractors and for materials is normalizing, and we're starting to see prices return to earth. I think and hope that it will be a soft landing. I know a lot of your listener base is subcontractors and so on. And I think it'll be more of a normalization, not a falling off a cliff kind of thing. And that, I think the broader data is kind of backing it up a little bit too. I mean, you look at a lot of these various statistics around the real estate market and around the construction market and stuff, and 2023 is not necessarily terrible. It's more akin to 2018 and 2019, but you look at 21, 22, and parts of later 2020, and they were just these anomalies in terms of
Outliers.
Yeah, supply demand, in terms of how price increases happened on both the residential and commercial side, how demand went through the roof for subcontractors and trades, and all. Like, you're just not going to have years like 2021 every year, and I think that 2023 is more just going to be a return to normal than some sort of a economic catastrophe. So.
Do you see, I know you don't necessarily know other people's permits, but do you see less traffic down at the permit city office right now?
Yes. Yeah. Not a lot of people are coming out of the ground. Not a lot of people are buying stuff. We're I was reading somewhere the other day that I think the Q1 commercial real estate activity was down 70% over on a year-over-year basis. In terms, I don't know if that was dollar volume or number of transactions or both, but there's a palpable slowdown. And again, my hope is that that's more of a normalization than anything more deeply rooted than that. And again, I also think that the second half of this year, hopefully people will feel like the ground is a bit firmer under them, and they can project, they can plan, they can kind of dive back in. There's a lot of people with a lot of capital on the sidelines who I don't
come talk to you.
Well, yeah, we're big believers in investing, and I think that I just don't. Again, I don't know the future, and I am not as smart as a lot of the people who are looking at this, but I do think that we don't have this. We don't have the seeds of a catastrophic collapse the same way that we did 15 years ago.
I agree.
The fundamentals are a lot stronger.
Yeah, and if you keep putting out some nice middle class family homes for us for people to live in and afford, that will help us greatly, because that's one of the biggest problems I've been seeing is there's been this low end buy, and then they're just turning out this high end resale out of it, and everybody's kind of forgetting about this like middle class that does exist, but over the last couple of years has been getting forgotten about more and more. So we appreciate you putting out those. Any last advice you want to give to our listeners?
No. I mean, I think it's to your point about the kind of the middle income housing stuff. We're not reinventing the wheel here.
Yeah.
Real estate and construction and development are execution businesses, in my opinion, and there are no new ideas under the sun. It's more about, can you put together a good team? Can you stick to your investment thesis and your philosophy? Can you execute in the way that is in line with your business plan? And then, then life is good. So don't overthink it, I think is my motto. So.
Well, I mean, as I say, you've got that networking piece down, man. You understand it. You understand how powerful other people can be, not only for yourself, but for your company and for the overall community, and how powerful staying positive can be for that overall aspect out of it. I mean, I think every question that I asked you about the challenges out of it, you actually kind of got like a little smile when you like nobody lesson right before you actually gave it to me. So yeah, I mean, it's really cool what you've been able to accomplish here, and I think it's really cool of where it's actually going to. That's what I would like to see is, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, I want to go walk your properties. Like, I want to go see these projects. I want to go see the overall fit into the community that they put in there. Because, as I say, you seem to be a community man. You're not here just to make a quick buck and run and skate like some of these other developers that we know really heavily in this area right now. I mean, you're invested into it. You're walking every day. You live in the city. You go into the restaurants. You live and breathe the city. That's so cool too.
It's we're a grain of sand in the scheme of things, but we're trying to, with what we do, be responsible about it, and it's a responsibility, but it's an opportunity, and it's a lot of fun. So,
that's a great way to put it. So you're being responsible, and we appreciate you for being responsible. But unfortunately, that is the end of our episode of the Atomic Real Estate Show today. There will be more actionable, atom-sized bits of advice that will be free for the taking on our next episode, so be sure to tune in next week. Thank you again to our listeners, and especially Travis for being so generous with his time and insight into the beginning, the middle, and the overall of his career right now. This has been a Direct Subs production. Check them out at directsubs.com. I look forward to hearing from all of you in our comments, and please remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe wherever you choose to listen to the Atomic Real Estate Show. Thank you again, Travis. Everybody, be 1% better today.
If you enjoyed our episode, please consider supporting the show by rating and reviewing the podcast. Also, check us out on Instagram at Atomic Real Estate Show to find out when new shows drop and to participate in our community Q&As. The Atomic Real Estate Show was brought to you by Direct Subs. Direct Subs is the #1 place for real estate investors to connect with local contractors for their flips, rentals, renovations, and new construction projects.